Sorry about being late today. I tend to come on around lunchtime or 1 o'clock, so I apologize. But let's get at it. Let me clean up a little bit. I just got back to my little desk here. Just need to clean up a little room to work with while I talk with you, speak with you. We have a new number on Railtown. Let me get it up for you. Just got to find the little, there it is. Pretty good number. We're not too far away from a milestone. Here's how many shares we currently have. You have in Railtown, 14,360,276. That, everybody, makes the largest institutional holder of Railtown out there. 10% of Railtown's current outstanding, well, once they buy AIP, would be a little bit over 20 million, like 22 million. So half of 22 is 11. We're over 5% of the stock. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Let's see if I can get quotes. Of course, Railtown's down today, 40.79 by 41.8. It really hasn't traded a lot since this morning. At 10:10, there was a trade for 39,500 at 41.4. So I assume that was a buyer. Obviously, there's both sides of every trade. But there was a trade for 50,000 shares at 40 cents. I think that was motivated by a seller. So here we sit, 0.4111 down 0.0295. And other, what the heck? Okay, there we go. Other stocks, QNTN, that bioscience one, is down 54 cents at $10.53. ZJYL is actually up 0.038 at 26.6 cents. Finger is down $1 at 151. MTEN is down 26 cents at 293. Let me just see GDC. I guess they did their quarterly. GDC is down 20 cents at $4 and essentially 23 cents. Railtown's volume is 267,000 shares so far today. Hi, Steve. Hello. Hey, Innocent, you were number one, but Steve was number one. So I give the tie to Steve. Hey, Innocent, it was a good weekend. It's beautiful weather here. Beautiful weather here. Hey, Jason, all right, 7:15 more. So I'll write that down. That's great. Good way to take advantage of the slow days. And I guess since it's not, I don't really have, there's no information on Railtown to talk about. GDC put out its quarterly, so it's stating that they have something like 859 million in assets. So I don't know what to make of that. And then somebody told me that GTII put out, I can't find it, so I don't know if it's true, put out its creditor list, and it's pretty big. So we don't have to spend time talking about it, but it just confirms the it just confirms the I've been saying for quite a while, don't buy GTII. And some of you sold it because of your intelligence. So I didn't put it in the title, but I did yesterday. So I think I'll read chapter 5 to you, because it's kind of long. I'm only going to do one. It's not that long, but it's not short like the other ones were. But I really do want to enter into evidence a lot of the reason I've been expressing that it's really a mug's game chasing stocks that are going to short squeeze if the only premise is that the shares are undelivered and therefore they're going to be bought in. That's the way it used to be. I can confirm that. I'm old enough to remember. But as yesterday's chapter pointed out, in Europe, there's a lag with the United States, but collectively, what can you call them? The banksters? They moved to strip us of our collateral starting after the dot bomb bust in the beginning of this millennium. That's how long it's been going on. And a lot of the people giving you advice on both sides of the issue, remember a time that no longer exists. Remember an enforcement regime that no longer exists. So anyway, that's great, Jason. Julius says good things coming. Pat M. All right, you guys. Marty Party. All right, Marty. We are almost to 14 and a half. See where we are? We're almost to 14.5 million shares. Almost. And there's 2 or 3 guys I didn't count when they gave me numbers. So, it's not like this would withstand the Price Waterhouse Cooper audit. But it's in good faith. It's in good faith. All right, so chapter 5 of The Great Taking is called Collateral Management. And there's a quote from Niccolo Machiavelli. People should either be caressed or crushed. If you do them minor damage, they will get their revenge. But if you cripple them, there is nothing they can do. If you need to injure someone, do it in such a way that you do not have to fear their vengeance. Niccolo Machiavelli. So page 25 of the book, The Great Taking. Associated with the imperative that certain secured creditors must be given legal certainty to client assets globally, without exception, is the further assurance of near instantaneous cross-border mobility of legal control of such collateral. Derivatives are financial contracts on everything imaginable, and even unimaginable for most of us. They may be modeled on real things, but are not the real things themselves. They are untethered from physical reality, but can be used to take real things as collateral. As we will see, the objective is to utilize all securities as collateral, and hence to have the real practical means to take all securities as collateral. Comprehensive collateral management systems have been implemented, which assure the transport of all securities cross-border through the mandated linkage of CSDs to ICSDs, central security depositories to international central security depositories, and on to the CCPs, where the risk of the entire derivatives complex is concentrated. The supposed demand for this enormous undertaking is not being driven by true market forces, but by regulatory contrivance. A report published in 2013 by the Committee on the Global Financial System at the Bank for International Settlements entitled, quote, Asset Encumbrance, Financial Reform, and the Demand for Collateral Assets, unquote, states the following, quote, regulatory reforms and the shift towards central clearing of derivatives transactions will also add to the demand for collateral assets. But there is no evidence or expectation of any lasting or widespread scarcity of such assets in global financial markets, unquote. Another report by the same committee, entitled Developments in Collateral Management Services, states, quote, some changes that may raise demand for collateral have not been phased in yet, since jurisdictions operate on different timelines for mandatory central clearing and margin requirements for non-centrally cleared trades. Multiple market participants noted that implementation of mandatory clearing requirements has not yet advanced to the point where those market participants are experiencing shortfalls in collateral readily available to pledge, unquote. And then furthermore, it states, quote, motivated by expected increases in demand for collateral stemming from regulatory changes, collateral management service providers are evolving their service offerings in an effort to improve efficiencies and enable market participants to meet collateral demands with existing and available securities, unquote. Thus, while there was no evidence of scarcity of collateral and market participants were not experiencing shortfalls, the quote-unquote demand for collateral assets was being artificially created and intensified by regulatory fiat. It was absolutely not market-driven. This was designed and deliberately executed to move control of collateral to the largest secured creditors behind the derivatives complex. This is the subterfuge, the end game of it all. On its pages 8 to 11, the cited report discloses the objectives of these collateral management systems, providing further confirmation that it is the linking of CSDs and ICSDs which provides cross-border mobility of collateral from the collateral giver to the collateral taker. Yes, they really explicitly use those terms. Quote, first, many of the largest custodians have implemented or have plans to implement a custodial platform that is global in nature. This will be a single system or set of connected systems that allows a customer a single view of all its available collateral held by the custodian, regardless of location. The desired end goal of all these efforts is to get as close as possible to a single view of all available securities, regardless of where they are held in real time. This aggregation of supply information is a necessary prerequisite for the efficient deployment of available securities to meet collateral obligations. ICSDs enable their participants to obtain aggregate views on the entirety of the latter's securities holdings held with the ICSD, including securities held by ICSD participants via link arrangements, unquote. The report illustrates the relationships between the ICSD and its participants in a diagram, which is included below. We're not there yet. The text continues, quote, diagram 5 illustrates the services available at ICSDs whereby a customer, a collateral giver, is a participant in the ICSD and holds its securities in the ICSD, including via link arrangements between the ICSD and local CSDs. The ICSD as CMSP, Collateral Management Services Provider, having established direct or indirect i.e. via a custodian participating in the local CSD, having established direct or indirect links with local CSDs, has information on and can access the entirety of a participant's securities for collateral management purposes. Unquote. At this point, the report clarifies in a footnote, quote, the entirety of a participant's securities includes the participant's securities that were issued and are held at the ICSD and the participant's securities that were issued and are held via ICSD link arrangements at a linked CSD, unquote. The report then turns to the role of the collateral takers. Quote, the collateral takers are also participants in the ICSD. Both the collateral giver and the collateral takers provide information to the ICSD as CMSP regarding collateral obligations. With this information, the ICSD runs its optimization process and may automatically generate collateral allocation instructions for the collateral giver/takers based on the results. The ICSD will also process the movement of securities on the books of the ICSD, since counterparties included in the optimization and allocation process are participants in the ICSD. If the collateral giver does not have sufficient securities in the ICSD environment, it can source collateral by transferring securities from its own account at the linked CSD to its securities account in the ICSD with a free of payment settlement occurring in the linked CSD, unquote. Note that the transferal of the people's assets is to be made free of payment. They meant not just quote unquote free mobility of collateral, but quite literally quote unquote free collateral. How nice. Through collateral transformation, the objective is to utilize all securities as collateral. Quote, as supply and demand dynamics for collateral continue to evolve, it is possible that efforts to make more efficient use of existing collateral will not be sufficient to fully satisfy individual obligations. If that is the case, some market participants may need to exchange available but ineligible securities for other securities that meet eligibility criteria in order to fulfill their collateral obligations. Undertaking transactions to achieve this outcome has been defined as, quote unquote, collateral transformation, unquote. Collateral transformation is simply the encumbrance of any and all types of client assets under swap contracts which end up in the derivative. This is done without the knowledge of the clients, who were led to believe that they safely own these securities, and serves no beneficial purpose whatsoever for these clients. And here it is. Here is the automated market-wide sweeping of collateral to CCPs and central banks in a time of market stress. Quote, in times of market stress, rapid deployment of available securities may be crucial in mitigating systemic issues. For instance, with better visibility of available securities and better access to them, firms may be better positioned to rapidly deploy securities to meet margin needs at CCPs in times of increased market gain increased access to the lender of last resort. The automation and standardization of many operations related to collateral management on a market-wide basis may enable a market participant to manage increasingly complex and rapid collateral demands, unquote. Now the chart is here. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to read this chart too. It's so small, but it's just how the collateral changes hands from the supply, which are equities desks, derivatives desks, fixed income desks, and then the aggregator and optimizer is the collateral giver and the collateral taker. I don't remember what CCP stood for. Let me see if I can find it. Central Clearing something party, Central Clearing Party it must be. All right, let me keep reading. And so, as we have seen here irrefutably, the objective is to utilize all securities as collateral and hence to have the real practical means to take all securities as collateral. Comprehensive collateral management systems have been implemented which assure the transport of all securities cross-border through the mandated linkage of CSDs to ICSDs to the CCPs, where the risk of the derivatives complex is concentrated, and onto the anointed secured creditors, which will take the collateral when the CCPs fail, having assured for themselves that their taking of assets cannot be, quote unquote, legally challenged. Hell of a rigged game. Inevitably, following the everything bubble will be the everything crash. Once prices of essentially everything crash and all financial firms rapidly become insolvent, these collateral management systems will all collateral to the central clearing counterparties, CCPs, and central banks. The trap into which all nations have been herded is ready and waiting to be sprung. There will be an epic endpoint to the decades of seemingly out of control financialization, which serve no beneficial purpose for humanity. but the devastating effects of which are apparent even now. It has been a deliberate strategy executed over decades. This was the purpose of inflating the global bubble entirely out of proportion with any real-world thing or activity, which must end in disaster for so many, with no pockets of resilience allowed to remain in any country. I'm trying to help you and myself become resilient. You know what? This stock, that's the end of chapter 5. I can go on to chapter 6, but maybe in a minute. And after we get through all the chapters, we can just discuss points by points, different things. The ask on this Railtown is now 43.5. So it's 52.5 is the volume bid for, and 52.5 is the volume offered. The bid is 0.4079, and the ask, the offer, is 0.435. The volume now is 267,000 shares. It's after 3 o'clock, and that ask price going up might mean something. Then again, might not. Then again. Then again. I hear things. I hear things. The last trade was 230 shares at 0.4111. The stock remains down 3 cents at that aforementioned price of 0.4111. It's 310. Other stocks in our near horizon are down. GDC's down 20 cents at 423, basically. QNTM is down 52 cents at 1055. ZJYL is up almost 4 cents at 27 cents. Finger is down 2 cents at 150. And Roadhouse remains down 0.0295, basically 3 cents at 41.11. But the ask is showing some signs of moving up. And maybe by the end of the day, the offer will be above the 44-cent close. We'll see. All right, let me see some of your questions because for some reason my head is a little bit foggy, even though I took a long walk. I'm having a hard time thinking of anything to talk about by myself. I'm all by myself. Don't want to live anymore. All by myself. When I was young, I never needed anyone, and love was just for fun. Those days are gone. It's a bloody red market, man. It's a bloody red market. You all right? You all right? The Dow is down 236. NASDAQ's up 110. S&P basically flat, but up. All right, mate. All right, let's see. Good job, Marty Party. That is a good job, 175.4. That is awesome. Mark Maddox says, that must be the 7,500 Bitcoin GDC claimed to have. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. But I got to read it. I didn't read it. I just saw it before I came on. I have it here. We can go over the management discussion. But I've heard of things having a little bit of a lag time. But there's something missing in the price of the stock right now. It might just be a mistaken hesitancy, or it's just something we're not aware of. I don't know. Railtown's ask has come down now, so it's not quite as dramatic as I thought earlier. So we'll see what happens. I'm almost legend. Happy Monday, Sir William. Rebecca Kurzweil posted a video last night of her interview with Dr. Tom Core on her YouTube channel, The Midday Bell. Well, she's better than I am. She's building up her clientele. There it is. Rebecca Kurzweil.
Dr. Tom Core, who is the president and CEO.
All right, let's stop. Start it again.
Of AI Partnerships Corp, which was recently acquired by a company that I've been a long-term investor.
How come we don't know that it's finalized, and you're out there saying it is?
Hello, everyone. I am beyond excited to be sitting here today with Dr. Tom Core, who is the president and CEO.
Oh. Nothing is easy. Nothing is easy.
So I am incredibly biased. I've been part of the company since 2019. I continually invested. Hello, everyone. I am beyond excited to be sitting here today with Dr. Tom Core, who is the president and CEO of AI Partnerships Corp, which was recently acquired by a company that I've been a long-term investor in, and I also work as the investor relations contact for Railtown AI Technologies, which trades on the CSE under the symbol RAIL, and the OTCQB under RLAIF. So I am incredibly biased. I've been a part of the company since 2019. I've continually invested over the years. I'm not quite an insider, but I do speak with investors and I do represent the company on investor relations. So I am thrilled that the company, after all this time, has come to this point, which is just such a massive and exciting development. And to be able to sit with you, Dr. Tom Core, and get to know you a bit better, get our investors to know you a bit better, and to kind of just dive into what this acquisition between Railtown and AI really means and why it's so incredibly exciting for the future of Railtown. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So first off, I would love to just kind of ask you, you spent decades helping bridge the gap between research and commercialization through your work with the Ontario Centres of Excellence and the University of Waterloo. So what drew you to want AI?
Well, one thing I learned in my many decades of working in the innovation ecosystem across Canada, and especially in Ontario, is that partnerships really do matter in terms of leveraging the skills, the people, the technologies, the customers of other organizations that are synergistic with you. So in terms of AI Partnerships Corp, what we have formed and what were our mandates to do when we started was to create a network of AI companies that offer AI solutions on a software as a service basis, in other words, on a service bureau basis, and build out a strong network that we can get to know well, and the long haul look to acquire some of these companies as we got to know them well, and it made sense to do so. One of those companies happened to be Railtown. So they became an affiliate of ours around a year ago. And in talking to the founders and Corey Brandolini in particular, it appears that there was probably a lot of synergies between our organizations. What they had was technology, the conductor, technology in particular, which could potentially be used by our affiliates, which we have 184 now in our network of early stage AI SaaS companies. And what we were looking for was to build out a rich offering that the affiliates could use to strengthen the business proposition of working with them. On the other hand, what they also provided, Railtown, was a public company which we were looking to become in the long term because we wanted to have access to the public markets. And therefore, what they had in terms of technology that could be utilized by our affiliates and their 5,000 customers, coupled with the network that we created, the AIP affiliate network, as we call it, of 184 AI SaaS companies that have got offices in 13 countries around the world, and again, over 5,000 end customers. It became clear that there was some very strong synergies between the two organizations, and therefore our discussion started about the possibility of combining the companies, and that's the stage that we're at now.
Yeah, there's been so many incredible synergies, and obviously you're incredibly passionate about the Canadian AI space. So I'm just curious how you think this acquisition also advances the mission of turning the Canadian AI innovation into a global business impact.
Sure. So basically, if you look at the very strong technology that's been developed by Railtown, which is world class, which is sold by the number of users that it's got and the strength of the intellectual property itself. You couple that with the 184 affiliates that we have, 125 approximately were located in Canada. What it brings together is some very strong technology, which is an AI application development platform, simply put, coupled with the companies that we have in our network, the 184 affiliates, or 5,000 end users. So we bring together very strong technology that can be used by our affiliates. So what the affiliates represent, of course, to Railtown is a great channel to get the products out the door to the affiliates and to the end customers that use the affiliates technology.
Now you have mentioned obviously there's 184 affiliates within the network at AIP. So from your perspective, what makes Railtown's conductor platform uniquely valuable to those affiliates?
Yeah, so most of them are early stage companies. They're typically doing a few $1 million in revenues. They've been around for 4 or 5 years. There are some exceptions, like Cohere was one of our first affiliates, and of course they've grown very aggressively over the years. But by and large, the companies are around that area, doing $2, $3, $4 million in revenues, and are growing very rapidly, and are very much in the development stage in terms of adding new features and functions to their existing products and adding new products as well. So be able to bring them a tool that they can use to make them a lot more efficient and cost effective in developing their applications, which is what the conductor product allows them to do. It's a great asset to bring to them as they grow their organizations and need these kinds of tools to be efficient and more competitive in the marketplace as they're building out new applications.
I just want to dive into what you just said. So, Railtown's conductor can obviously enhance what the affiliates can offer to their enterprise clients. I mean, is this something that's going to enhance the affiliates as well as what they can offer to the clients? If we can
so the affiliates can use the technology to build out their current applications further and to build new ones, keeping in mind that our affiliates are typically providing application solutions in the healthcare, manufacturing, fintech, supply chain areas, and a number of them, like Railtown, have got application development tools or tools to help them develop their applications. We're very cautious not to bring in companies that compete with each other. So basically, what we've got with the Railtown suite of products are a suite of products that can help the affiliates build out their applications that they're providing to the end customers. But the end customers themselves are also developing applications to run beyond those that just the affiliates provide. So that toolkit, the conductor, could be very useful to the end customers of the affiliates as well as the affiliates themselves.
Absolutely incredible. So you mentioned there's 184 affiliates from 13 countries around the world, over 5,000 enterprise end users. How do you envision that we actually integrate Railtown's technology across this network?
Yeah, so just to be clear, the 184 affiliates are located in, or head office, I should say, in either Canada or the United States. About 125 are Canadian. The rest are located in the United States, but they have offices in 13 countries around the world and users in 5,000 end customers that are using their software. So what we want to do and what we will do and what we've got some very definitive plans to do is to provide the Railtown software to them on a very economical basis, to get them using the software to help them grow their products quicker, to help them grow the products that their end customers use and allow them to grow quicker as well. So we want to make them a lot more effective, a lot quicker, and using the Railtown toolkit certainly puts them in a position to do so. And because they're already all part of our network, it's very easy to reach out to them, make the Railtown technology accessible to them, and get them up and running on it very expeditiously. And that's what our plan is to do.
I love that. And something that I think investors are always curious about too is that one of AIP's original goals was to identify and acquire top performing affiliates. How will becoming part of a public company like Railtown accelerate that roll-up strategy?
Yeah, so basically what our business plan was to build out a network of affiliates, get to know them well, and as we progressed, to look to acquire a number of them to build out AI partnerships as a large AI SaaS company. And what having the network in place allowed us to do was to get to know these companies very well, see how they work with each other, see how they were growing, see how they were responsive to business opportunities that we brought their way. So it was a very long, if you will, but thorough due diligence process to get to know these companies well. And keeping in mind that the 184 is growing, so every month we add another 2, 3, or 4 into the network. So that's why we created the network in the first place, was to get to know these companies very, very well. So having done that, we're now in a position to say that we need to look to potentially, when the time is right, look to acquire some of these companies. And I think that at this point in time, because of the combination with Railtown, what we would look to do primarily is potentially acquire companies that had AI development tools, application development tools, and so on, that could build out the offerings of Railtown. So they have a very strong offering in the AI tools, if you will, for lack of a better term, area that can be offered to end customers. So although we haven't made any decision in this regard as to when to start to do the acquisitions or who they should be, my gut feeling is that we'll probably look to acquire ones that are synergistic with the Railtown products, such that we can come up with an even stronger set of AI development tools and products than Railtown has today by doing these acquisitions and leveraging the customers that these affiliates already have.
I love that business model. Is there any previous business model that you're trying to replicate or emulate that you guys have been a part of in the past, or anyone on the board that could have?
Well, there's been a lot of companies that have exercised a model. So, we're in awe of companies like Constellation Software out of Toronto. They've been at this for almost 30 years now, and currently through acquisitions generate millions of dollars in revenues. So there's a great example of a company that has executed well, stuck to the knitting, and we, however, Railtown and AIP is a small company. We don't have the resources to be everything to everybody and just acquire software companies, and regardless of what sector they may focus on. So I think at this stage of our growth and coming together, we really need to focus on companies that truly can leverage what we're doing, what Railtown is doing, and likewise we can leverage the products and the end customers that they've got, and therefore it makes sense to focus on the AI development tools area, which would likely be our area of focus once we get into thinking about doing the acquisitions.
Touching on the fact that you just said that you want to work with companies that can leverage what Railtown has to offer and vice versa, we just recently announced a new partnership with Digital, one of Canada's global innovation clusters, which was a major step. I'm wondering, how do you see that collaboration helping to scale the AI affiliate marketplace as well as strengthen Canada's sovereign AI infrastructure?
Yeah, so the Digital Supercluster, which is a federal government funded organization based out of Vancouver, but services the entire Canadian marketplace. I had the privilege of being on their selection committee for the funds that they deployed to help select the companies that should receive their funding that have the most potential for growth and creating strong economic outcomes in Canada. So basically what the Digital Supercluster does, and there's similar ones that focus on marketing, oceans, and so on and so on, is they accelerate. Their mandate is to accelerate the development and adoption of digital technologies and the commercialization of them. So they do that by bringing companies together and focus on solutions and areas that are of interest to the Digital Supercluster, like healthcare, which is very synergistic to what we're focused on. And basically, what they do is bring these companies together, focus on areas that are of importance to them, importance to the Digital Supercluster in terms of vertical market focus, and basically through full investment in these companies, cross industry, bringing them together, the collaboration that they bring together when these companies come together in these various sectors, the IP creation and so on, is very synergistic to what we're doing. So basically what the Digital Supercluster does, and will continue to do, is to help build out companies in these various sectors and areas of focus that they have. And our affiliates, many of whom are already members of the Digital Supercluster, can leverage their capability to help them grow. So we view this partnership with the Digital Supercluster as being key to providing even more resources to the customers of Railtown and the customers and affiliates of AIP. So it's a win-win situation all the way around. Brings more resources to our clients, and for the Digital Supercluster, brings them more users that they can leverage as they work to meet their goals of building out digital technology, solving real-world problems in Canada and the commercialization of these. And to some degree, the fact that AI Partnerships has got 60 some affiliates that happen to be US based, and we view that as a very positive thing, even with our typical mandate of serving the Canadian market, because a lot of the small companies that, and this isn't just AI specific, but a lot of small companies have issues in terms of expanding beyond the Canadian market. So having these 60 affiliates in the United States give all the Canadian ones a great channel to get their products through those affiliates, the American affiliates, into the U.S. marketplace, which is a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, really. I mean, I've learned a lot about the AI space from working with Railtown and the investor over the years. And, you know, Railtown being a part of, say, Amy and Neela, and now there's organizations like AIP and Digital. It sounds like, you know, Canada is really trying to position itself as a global leader in AI. I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are on Canada's potential to be a global leader in AI and what it's trying to accomplish.
Well, as we know, we have our own Jeff Hinton here in Canada at the University of Toronto, who is referred to as the father or grandfather of AI. So we have that expertise. We've had it here for decades. And so we really have the people skills coming out of the post-secondary academic institutions to help move the AI mandate, the infrastructure forward. Where Canada's always been a little weak is that we've been really good at creating intellectual property in various markets, various verticals and sectors like AI, but we've always come up second in commercializing it and realizing the commercialization potential and the economic benefits that come from owning, commercializing, and selling on a worldwide basis the technology that we develop here. So I think finally what's happening is you're seeing, thanks to academic institutions, thanks to the federal and provincial governments, companies coming together, i.e. the digital supercluster model is a great example, and building on the strength of all the players in the marketplace in order to capture the financial rewards that we should be getting given the investment that we're making in AI. So yeah, so I think that this time, if we do it right, we should have a really good shot at growing the AI business as part of the Canadian economy and creating infrastructure to do so and making sure that we benefit from it given the technology that's being developed, the skills that we've got here with our graduates coming out of our great universities, and we want to make sure we just don't become a branch plant operation for Americans or other countries around the world that come and grab our talent, they grab our IP, they grab our people, and the financial advantages of it occur to them out of Silicon Valley or wherever they move these people to. So I think it's really important that we create a strong AI infrastructure in Canada that we can leverage and reap the financial rewards of pulling it together and keep control of that intellectual property here in Canada.
Absolutely. I mean, you have incredible AI scientists in Canada, like including Dr. Elliot Hoffman, who is part of the board of Railtown, who I'm sure you have a relationship with, and there's incredible talent here. And one thing you did talk about was commercialization, and I want to dive into that a little bit more. The combination of Railtown and AIP is being described as creating a first-of-its-kind affiliate marketplace. So can you walk me through how this marketplace model translates into recurring revenue and long-term enterprise value?
Sure. So the products of our affiliates, by definition, they're all generating $2 or $3 or $4 million a year in revenues by providing their products on a software as a service basis to the 5,000 plus end customers that they all have. So basically, what we want to do is make sure that we continue to make that software and the new software that comes out as a result of the platform software that they've got available to end customers, the existing and new ones, and grow that business as much and as quickly as we can. So the big advantage we've got today is that we pulled together just the Canadian ones alone, the 125 Canadian affiliates, all of whom are generating recurring revenues from the software that they offer, because they all offer it on a recurring revenue basis. In other words, the software as a service basis. So I think we're really ahead of the game, because this isn't about, gee, let's create a great new payroll system and it's going to be the best payroll system in the world, and we hope, and let's see how it goes. What we've got is 125 companies, typically, and I'm talking about the Canadian ones now, that are focused on, like I said earlier, healthcare, fintech, manufacturing, supply chain, and sector agnostic tools for CRM, for example, customer relationship management. So that software already exists, is generating revenues, serving thousands of customers, Canadian and abroad, and the more the merrier, the more customers they can support outside of Canada. That's great. We want to bring that money back to Canada. So basically, the recurring revenue model, the marketplace, really consists of the offerings of our affiliates, including those of Railtown, and the ability to keep that revenue here, bring that and put it onto a Canadian platform, a data center platform, which we're working with companies on as part of our data sovereignty aspect of what we're doing. So if we can take those companies, especially the ones, the Canadian companies that are currently using the US hyperscalers, which are primarily Google and Microsoft and Amazon, and bring that technology and their products to run on a Canadian platform, again, which we're in the late stage of negotiating with a number of companies, that would see that revenue flow to Canada. The data center revenue, over $100 million a year that the Canadian affiliates are spending with the US hyperscalers, would remain here. So it's all part and parcel of building up a very strong AI infrastructure in Canada, bringing those revenues to Canada, having it run on a sovereign data center in Canada. So all that's needed to pull this AI opportunity together, and we think that we can play a role in doing that because of the nature of the affiliates that we've got, the customers they've got, the software they've got, the fact that they're already producing revenue with the software they've got, the tools that Railtown has got to help them develop more applications and further grow their business. I think it's a great opportunity to pull that all together and create a great Canadian success story.
That's really exciting to hear you say, and I'm curious, within that affiliate network, countries that we would see would be a bigger near-time growth engine, whether that's fintech, healthcare, manufacturing.
Sure. I think that when we decided to focus on various sectors when we first formed the company, we did so because the research showed us that companies that adopt healthcare technologies, manufacturing, supply chain, and so on, and fintech, were the ones that were getting the best return on investment from adopting AI applications and AI solutions. So that's what we focused on. Now, within our 184 affiliates, the bulk of them fall into one of those sector buckets, if you like. There's also some that have got technologies that don't, like customer relationship management, which is a cross-sector solution, obviously. But we focused on those because that's where the growth was. We wanted to make sure we're getting involved with affiliates that were serving high-growth markets, and that's where we landed. So I would say that all four of those areas, as they were 5 years ago when we first started looking at where the growth was happening in vertical markets through the adoption of AI, the story still holds the same. Those four sectors are still in a fast growth mode, and those are the ones that we still look to attract to bring into the network, because it reflects in the growth that they're bringing, helps the other affiliates that they work with grow their companies, because the more they're growing, the more customers they've got. And as the affiliates work with each other to cross-sell to each other's customers, we want to see that customer base growing as quickly as possible. And that's why we're focused on these high growth areas.
Love that. And having led so many innovation ecosystems over the years, is there anything that personally excites you about this next chapter with Railtown?
Oh man, it's just having created that huge network of affiliates, the 184 of them, especially again the Canadian ones, and now being able to go the next step by providing this great Railtown technology to them, having them become a channel to use it for them and their end customers is just phenomenal, because most companies just don't have the luxury of doing that, because who else has created a network of 184 AI SaaS companies, and who else has made that huge investment in the toolkits like Conductor that Railtown has? So bringing both of those things together, and because of the synergies between what Railtown's doing and AIT's doing, I think it just is going to be a great success story. Still a lot of hard work ahead of us, but nevertheless, I in my career, I've been at this a long time, I've never seen such synergies coming together to create a growth opportunity for a combined company that should be second to none in this high growth area of AI, especially given the focus in Canada on trying to make sure that we capture the value from the AI sector as we move forward with it. And I think that the combination of Railtown and AIP creates a great opportunity for us as a combined company to do that and be one of the major players in the AI sector in not only Canada, but also in North America.
I mean, being an investor myself, especially for the last 6 years, I've been hearing you say that can't help but bring a smile to my face. I mean, it makes me so excited about the fact that the company has gotten to this stage and that there's such a bright future. You know, obviously it's difficult and there's, you know, ups and downs, but I can't help but smile and get excited when you say what you just said. And I'm also very curious about you looking ahead the next 12 to 24 months. What milestones or outcomes would signal to you that Railtown and the AIP integration is an actual success?
Well, I think that one of the key things that we're working on right now is partnering with Canadian AI data centers to deal with that data sovereignty issue that is a larger concern than it has been in the past. And I'm sure that most of your listeners will know that data centers in the United States or American-owned data centers that are anywhere in the world, including Canada, under the U.S. laws, the data that's on those data centers can be accessible by the U.S. government. So it creates a lot of concern by our affiliates in terms of, especially the ones that are in the fintech sector and healthcare sector, in terms of the confidentiality of information. So at this point in time, I think that the data center opportunity, the data sovereignty issue that we can address by working with a large Canadian data center that's not controlled by the U.S. government in terms of having access to the data that's on it being available to the U.S. government is a kernel or a catalyst to help pull all this together. So between the sovereign AI data center capabilities that we will hopefully soon be announcing, coupled with the synergies between the AIP affiliates that will reside on there and the capabilities of the Railtown products to help the companies grow quicker and more efficiently and more cost effectively, I think we've got a real winning combination. And this is not meant in any way to degrade the U.S. affiliates, because again, we see those 60 some affiliates as they are today being great channels for the Canadian affiliates to get into the U.S. market. And that, in my experience, as I said earlier, has always been a challenge because the Canadian companies, the state ones, tend to have issues in terms of marketing and sales, especially into foreign countries. So having those resources available to them, the 60 some U.S. affiliates and the 13 offices around the world, the 5,000 customers that can be sold to, is just a great base to make marketing and sales much easier for the Canadian affiliates in terms of growing their international presence and their international sales.
I was very, very excited. That kind of wraps up our interview. I really, really appreciate speaking with you today. I think this is such a valuable update for anyone that's already been an investor in Railtown, that might be thinking about investing in Railtown. This gives us so much color and so much information to help people really understand what this partnership means. I definitely would love to speak to you again as this relationship continues to evolve. And I just want to reiterate as well that this interview was meant for informational and educational purposes, not a proposal to invest in the company. I am an investor and a shareholder, and I have been for a long time, and I work for the company as the investor relations contact. I'm not an insider, and I technically reserve the right to continue to buy or sell the stock if I want to, but I am such a believer in this company. I've been holding it for so many years, and I continue to want to be alongside this company and be witness to its success. So again, thank you so much, Tom. I really, really appreciate your time so much, and I really hope that you'll give our investors an update again very soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
She has very white teeth, but she did a good job. And she also, Rebecca Kurzweil, is building her contacts for. That she interviewed Michael Belkin. Wow. I used to follow him on gold and silver. So she's building her contact list to work IR. She's just I don't think she's in the league. I think she seems better than some of the other people out there, but she's trying to build her contact base, which is great. It's a smart thing to do. But she does interview a lot of companies. I'm going to listen to her, Michael Belkin. He's a pretty sharp guy. We got 10 minutes to go. So let me just quickly go to the price. Uh, 0.4079 by 0.4181, 270,000 shares traded. We're down a penny, a little bit over a penny. Not a lot of volume since we last spoke. Nothing else has really moved very much either. So let me go back to thank you very much. I'm Almost Legend. That's amazing that you pointed that out. It's a 32-minute interview, which you've just heard. Ward Richardson. Well, sorry, I skipped one of I'm Technology. Definitely worth a watch and getting your perspective. Let me see what Ward said, and I'll give you my perspective, other than her teeth are very white, which I don't mean to be. They are just very white. Good for her. I mean, I gotta start covering my teeth. Ward Richardson, I saw that last night. She did something from work, William to work with. I thought it was a great interview. Well, the two or three things that stood out, I'll have to listen to it again. Two or three things that stood out. He's looking for synergistic tie-ups and partnerships. So I wonder what he would think of a synergistic merger with the United States, the 51st state. That would be synergistic, wouldn't it? But anyway, one thing that stood out is right at the beginning, she said that the two companies are combined. She's so excited. And then, of course, as he answered questions, he operated on that assumption. So I guess we can assume that the transaction is complete. I'm sure the attorneys will get around to papering it up. And I know the attorneys are great. They're doing their best and couldn't be better. He also talked about that they really liked Conductor, which is congruent with what we've been discussing. Conductor, that affirmation of the strength of Conductor came through if you didn't fall asleep. He also said that they were drawn to the fact that they're a public company. And that goes to that whole issue. He didn't get into it, but it's clear to me that strategically, it's smarter to join a company that's going to have value per share as you roll up some of the network companies. He did say it's a world-class product. I really liked that he pointed out that most of the network are early stage companies doing 2 to 3 to 4 million. So there's 185 of them. If you just focus on 100 of them, times 3, 2, 3, 4, just focus on 3 million. That's 300 million in revenue. He did say that he's not going to go after all of them. They're just going to get the best, which I think makes sense too. He used synergistic a lot, and I do point out that what could be more synergistic than one big, beautiful North America? He compared it to CSU, but a lot of companies roll up. The roll-up model is not a revolutionary concept. It's just that Constellation Software did it so well. But anyway, one of the other things I noticed he mentioned, I think 3 times, is that they're in late stage negotiation, either with data centers or with hyperscalers, or perhaps with both. But they want to link with data centers, is what he said, or at least that's what I think I heard he said, which is really interesting because there is capacity up in Canada, and the trend, I think, worldwide is going to get away from U.S. invasiveness and violation of privacy. The only thing that's private in the United States is the consolidated audit trail of trading in stocks under $5. That's the only thing that's kept private. Everything out in terms of, that they protect the privacy of. Everything else is targeted. And so it's an interesting observation that Canadian companies don't want the CIA knowing all of their information. And I think there was one other point. There was one other point, but I can't remember it. I thought it was a well done job. She's been in the stock for many years, she said. I don't know what she paid or if it's stock she just earned from being the IR person, like with all the other companies she is related to. But she said she's not an insider, so she probably doesn't have a huge position, which is fine. It's probably bigger than I know it's bigger than mine, but it's probably bigger than most of ours. But that gave me confidence in her point of view, and it also um, leads me to point out to each of you that even if you got in June, you've only been here for a short while, whereas a lot of the people here have had to wait a long time. So I know it's frustrating, and it's been sideways, and there doesn't seem to be news. But that interview that I'm Almost Legend pointed out, thank you very much, she did say the deal's done. So that's a bit of news. I don't know how she's allowed to get out. Well, it is what she said. So maybe she's just assuming from the same things that we read. But it hasn't been filed yet, as far as I know. Let me look. It's about 4 o'clock. We can check right after the market closes. Maybe it'll be filed. The bid is 0.4079. The ask is 0.4181. They're not going to, it's going to close in the red again, yet again. Essentially sideways, but always red. Always red. That'll stop. We'll have a run of green once the criminals can no longer pick your pockets. We'll have a series of green days. The volume is 272,000. Looks like it's going to close here. The last trade, 745 shares at 0.4135, and that's probably is it. Yep, that's the last trade on the day. So down 3 cents, down 0.0271. Swell. Swell. Well, we're one day closer to a stock price climb, in my judgment. Thank you very much. I'm Almost Legend. That's really that was right out of the gate. I think it's a sign. I'm sure she'll interview Corey and she's enthusiastic, of course, and I think she asked some really good questions. I think George Martin might have picked some better background music. Me, I just go with no music at all. But certainly was exciting to have the tone behind it. And I'll put little pictures up from time to time. Anyways, great interview. I'm glad to see it happening. I'm glad to see what's today? I'm spacing out. Is today Monday? So it's Monday, and they're already starting. That's part. I would argue that she's part of a campaign to get the story out. So it's starting. It's beginning. I think it's great. Clarence Bryn. Well, are you pointing out your brain to us? I guess you are. It's pretty impressive. I guess you can lift things and move things. But I appreciate your comment, Clarence Bryn. Write it down like GTII. Are you short? Do you have a short position today, Clarence? I mean, I guess if you're part of a short of 100 or 200,000 shares today, it's possible you could have booked anywhere from a penny to a penny and a half. So maybe you made $2,000 to $3,000 today, Clarence, while you're making fun of people. You don't have to come brag. We understand you're exercising your brain there, but congratulations, you stole 2 or 3 grand today. Good for you. But we're not going to ride it down slowly here. You're going to be the one riding it up quickly. But I'm sure it doesn't matter to you. You'll move the stock around and it'll be offshore, or you'll walk away from something and your paymasters will protect you. But thank you for coming here and bragging. I always like someone who gloats. Dee owns a bunch of it. Thank you, Dee. That's fantastic. Good for you. I don't know if I've ever written you down. I guess I will. That's good. Good for you, Dee. Deschamps bought more shares today. Good for you. Deschamps. Deschamps is here. Everyone must fear the Deschamps. Deschamps. The Champs-Élysées. Good for you. That's exactly what you should do today. Excellent. So your original goal was 40 and you're at 60. Bravo. Bravo. Yeah, if it stays low, I would argue that Rebecca's interview is the sign of many things to come. And she did a good job. She knows the story, and I think she asked questions that got Dr. Kaur speaking. And I was, in terms of what's there for us, one is the deal is completed. Two, he's not, it doesn't sound like he's ready to buy any of the AIP companies right away. Who knows? But he said they're working with them. They haven't made any decisions yet. So I think that's good. They're not going to dilute the number of shares out there while the stock price is low. I think they should wait a bit. And that's fantastic. That was good news. I also was intrigued. He said late stage negotiations once, and I think he mentioned it as negotiations the second time, talking to data centers / hyperscalers, or maybe the way I interpreted it, when he was mentioning hyperscalers, those are mostly US firms. And if he can run his business through data centers, they could benefit from that revenue. That's kind of how I heard it. I'd have to re-listen to the interview to make sure I heard that correctly. But that's really intriguing. The idea that they're in late stage negotiations that I think could be quite meaningful. So I don't know if the stock price is going to stay down for another month, but 60,000 is awesome. It really is. And your strategy, the way you're doing it, is perfect, Deschamps. Good afternoon, Donna M. Good afternoon, William and everyone. Railtown climbed to 200,000 quickly. Yes, it did. I saw 50,000 and 35,000 this morning. early. I'm glad we're all listening to the video together. Thanks, I'm almost legend and Ward, Donna says. Eric B says the Time Life video ID is PELAUQICEJ4. I found it just by going to YouTube and putting in the words midday bell, and it popped right up. Midday bell. That's her channel. That's her channel. I'm almost legend. Good afternoon, Donna. Hope all is well with you. Jack Hamilton. Good afternoon, William. Good afternoon. Jack says hi to Donna. You're not kidding. A lot of movement today. Can Noon, please adjust your phone so we can see that title. It's hard to hear. Yeah, I'll show it to you. I thought I was showing it. I really wasn't trying to hide it. But I'll.
Hello, everyone. I am beyond excited to be sitting here today with Dr. Tom Core, who is the president and CEO of AI Partnerships Corp., which was recently acquired by a company that I've been a long-term investor in, and I also work as the investor relations contact for Railtown AI Technologies, which trades on the CSE under the symbol RAIL. And the OTCQB under RLAIF. So I am incredibly biased. I've been a part of the company since 2019. I've continually invested over the years. I'm not quite an insider, but I do speak with investors.
Her teeth are so white. I'm jealous.
So
I am jealous. So it's midday bell with a bell cleverly inserted where there should be an A in the spelling of day. So it's sort of mid-D bell, Y bell, midday bell. So she writes in her description, which is very well done. She writes, Canada's AI ecosystem is entering a new era. In this exclusive interview, Railtown AI Technologies and AI Partnerships Corp. Share how their merger is set to transform Canada's role in global artificial intelligence innovation. Dr. Tom Core, President and CEO of AIP, explains how the integration of Railtown's conductor, she spelled it correctly. Well, she spelled conductor correctly, but she didn't use the conductor without the O. Anyway, the integration of Railtown's conductor platform and AIP's network of 180 affiliates will accelerate the growth of next-generation AI software companies. Discover how this partnership advances Canada's sovereign AI infrastructure, drives cross-industry collaboration, and strengthens the commercialization of homegrown technology. Whether you are an investor, developer, or AI enthusiast, this conversation reveals how strategic partnerships are shaping the future of the AI economy. Watch to learn how Canadian innovation is scaling globally through collaboration, technology, and vision. I've got a vision. Just join up with the United States. What's Meta's $27 billion AI deal? Did Meta just do a deal? Or is that old information? Meta, Google, and Microsoft tripled down on AI spending. Then Barron's 3 days ago, Meta faces a sudden reckoning. How big tech earnings are reshaping the AI race. I'll go buy that. Motley Fool, should you buy Meta stock while it's under $700? I don't see their deal. Financial Times, Mark Zuckerberg goes all in on the AI YOLO trade. Yeah, I don't see this $27 billion deal. Meta's stock dropped, but its AI strategy may be stronger than ever. I don't see this deal. I have to look that up. What deal there? I just saw a headline. I don't see any kind of discussion of their $27 billion deal. I don't know. So Ken, it's just called Midday Bell. And if you Google it, YouTube it, Midday Bell, she comes right up. Jack Hamilton, please. All right, Jack. Good for you, Jack. Congratulations. Justin Babish. Quote, the sovereign data centers not accessible by the U.S. government was the heaviest statement that I heard in that interview. Well, they're not currently accessible by the U.S. government, but I don't know if states' rights will count when Canada's the 51st state. That's what Letterman does, tries the same joke over and over again. Innocent says, yep, I too heard that. That was big. Red Pepper Ronnie, hello. Red Pepper Ronnie says, great find to you. I am almost legend. Ward Richardson says, Tom Core also said they are waiting on a few major contracts to be signed from the United States. Yeah, like becoming the 51st state. Yeah, he did say that. I missed it. I forgot it. That's good. Donna said, thanks. I'm almost legend. And praise that he's doing well. Donna, hey, Jack, a lot of movement early. CJ Yukon. Wouldn't it be great if we could get more than one Green Day in a row? Jeez. Yes, it would be great. It'll come. It's coming. I think Rebecca's I think extremely well done interview and professionally done, and informative interview. Is one of the first of many events of the company rolling out its strategy, its story and strategy, I guess. So, yeah, I think you're going to see CJ Yukon pretty soon. Green days ahead. I also heard something about they are doing $100 million in annual revenue. Did he say that on the call? He said they have 125 Canadian companies, and the companies on average are doing 2, 3, 4 million in revenue. I'm not sure I heard him say 100 million in annual revenue. I'm going to listen to it again. I'm just not going to put you guys through it. I'll do it tonight so I know what she said. She'd be an interesting interview herself just to see how she heard about it and why she's been in it so long. It'd be very good. Donna says sooner or later we will get green days. Dachamp is here. All right. All right. That's a good number. You're getting to 60. It's an excellent number, Dachamp. The champ. Innocent one. Just buy people if you want, not a financial advise. Spell check. Do as you please. The end. At the end. But this sideways movement, just trying to shake off weak hands. Patience, young grasshoppers. And Sir William, great post with video. Well, the credit goes to I'm Almost Legend, and I guess I can also give credit to Ward because he saw it last night. If 100 million in revenue, around $10 a share initially is happening. I don't know where the 100 million revenue came from. I don't know if it was on the interview, because if it's inside of the AIP network, the first thing is you got to roll that revenue up, and that's going to involve issuing more shares. But if the 100 million comes from conductor or implied conductor, you don't have to issue any more shares. So yeah, at 100 million, you could have anywhere from a $7.5 billion to a $15 billion company, or more. I mean, it could go to 200 times that, but at $7.5 billion, I think it's. I'm not going to say it out loud. Yeah, I was going to say $34. It's $33.33. If in fact they have 100 million in revenue without issuing any more shares right now, and you use the 75x, that's a $33 stock. AI in the AI industry, data is the new gold. Yep. Yep. That's all true, but gold is gold and not fade away. Right? Maybe I should just try to get one more chapter done, because I'm so lazy I would quit. Yeah, there is one more chapter that's not too long. All right, I'll try to do one more chapter, and then if there's questions, we can talk about it. If not, I'm going to sign off. But coming from The Great Taking, Chapter 6, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. George Orwell, Animal Farm. In 2000, and the title of the chapter is Safe Harbor for Whom and From What? In 2005, less than 2 years before onset of the global financial crisis, safe harbor provisions in the U.S. Bankruptcy Code were significantly changed. Safe harbor sounds like a good thing, but again, this was about making it absolutely certain that secured creditors can take client assets and that this cannot be challenged subsequently. This was about safe harbor for secured creditors against claims of customers to their own assets. Here are some explanatory excerpts from the online article, quote, "The Effect of the New Bankruptcy Code on Safe Harbor Transactions," unquote. On October 17, 2005, the provisions of the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention and Consumer Protection Act of 2005, the 2005 Act, became effective, amending various provisions of the U.S. Bankruptcy Code. Of particular significance are the provisions of the 2005 Act that address the bankruptcy treatment of various safe harbor transactions, such as forward contracts, commodity contracts, repurchase agreements, and securities contracts, unquote. Historically, under U.S. Bankruptcy Code, a bankruptcy trustee could avoid transfers, i.e., force disgorgement or repayment, if the transfer was constructively fraudulent, i.e., less than reasonable equivalent value was received and the debtor is in bankruptcy. Sorry, wrong emphasis. And the debtor in bankruptcy was insolvent, became insolvent as a result of the transfer, was engaged in business for which the debtor had unreasonably small capital, the debtor in bankruptcy intentionally incurred debt beyond his ability to pay, or made such transfer to or for the benefit of an insider. Or a bankruptcy trustee could avoid transfers if the transfer was made within 90 days of a bankruptcy filing, 1 year if the transferee was an insider. Transfers that meet any of the above criteria are referred to as preferences, preference transfers, or preference liabilities. So now, with the new safe harbor provisions, the transfer of customer assets to creditors previously considered to be fraudulent can no longer be challenged. That was exactly the point. Further, it is now quite okay for the transfer of the public's assets to be made free of payment, as there is no requirement to show that reasonably equivalent value was received. Stephen J. Lubin is the Harvey Washington Wiley Chair in Corporate Governance and Business Ethics at Seton Hall University and an expert in the field of corporate finance and governance, corporate restructuring, financial distress, and debt. Below are some excerpts from his book, The Bankruptcy Code Without Safe Harbors. Quote, following the 2005 amendments to the code, it is hard to envision a derivative that is not subject to special treatment. The safe harbors cover a wide range of contracts that might be considered derivatives, including securities contracts, commodities contracts, forward contracts, repurchase agreements, and most importantly, swap agreements. The latter has become a kind of catch-all definition that covers the whole of the derivatives market, present and future. A protected contract is only protected if the holder is also a protected person, as defined in the bankruptcy code. Financial participants, essentially very large financial institutions, are always protected. The safe harbors, as currently enacted, were promoted by the derivatives industry as necessary measures. The systemic risk argument for the safe harbors is based on the belief that the inability to close out a derivative position because of the automatic stay would cause a daisy chain of failure amongst financial institutions. The problem with this argument is that it fails to consider the risks created by the rush to close out positions and demand collateral from distressed firms. Not only does this contribute to the failure of an already weakened financial firm by fostering a run on the firm, but it also has consequent effects on the markets generally. The code will have to guard against attempts to grab massive amounts of collateral on the eve of a bankruptcy in a way that is unrelated to the underlying value of the trades being collateralized, unquote. Further in the chapter, the new safe harbor regime was cemented into case law with the court proceedings around the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers. In the lead up to the failure, J.P. Morgan, JPM is the symbol, had taken client assets as a secured creditor while being the custodian for those client assets. Under long-standing bankruptcy law, this would clearly have been a constructively fraudulent preference transfer benefiting an insider. And so JPM was sued by clients whose assets were taken. I will cite the following memorandum filed in defense of JPM by the law firm Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen, and Katz with the U.S. Bankruptcy Court of the Southern District of New York. Quote, the purpose of the safe harbors from their inception has been to promote stability in large and inherently unstable financial markets by protecting transactions in those markets from being disturbed during a bankruptcy. As explained in the legislative history of the original safe harbor, quote, inside quote, the financial stability of the clearinghouses, with often millions of dollars at their disposal, would be severely threatened by, unquote, exposure to avoidance claims, as well actions to avoid margin payments made by clearinghouses could set off a chain reaction of insolvencies among other market participants, threatening the entire industry, unquote. Now, here's the decision of the court. United States Bankruptcy Court, Southern District of New York, in Re. Chapter 11 case number 08-13555. The court agrees with JPMC that the safe harbors apply here, and it is appropriate for these provisions to be enforced as written and applied literally in the interest of market stability. The transactions in question are precisely the sort of contractual arrangements that should be exempt from being upset by a bankruptcy court under the more lenient standards of constructive fraudulent transfer or preference liability. These are systemically significant transactions between sophisticated financial players at a time of financial distress in the markets. In other words, the precise setting for which the safe harbors were intended. The court first must consider whether J.P. Morgan Corp. Is eligible for protection under Section 546E. That subsection, like the safe harbors generally, applies only to certain types of qualifying entities. JPMC, as one of the leading financial institutions in the world, quite obviously is a member of the protected class and qualifies as both a financial institution and as a financial participant, unquote. And so, only, quote, a member of the protected class, unquote, is empowered to take customer assets in this way. Smaller secured creditors are not similarly privileged. In the aftermath of the 2007-2008 global financial crisis, no executive was convicted of a crime for the use and subsequent loss of client assets. Quite to the contrary, the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers was used to establish case law precedent that the protected class of secured creditors have an absolute priority claim to client assets, and that potentially and practically only they will end up with the assets. That's the end of the chapter. And that's what I've been describing without having read this for months, if not 2 or 3 years. And the analogy I was using was the settlements in the Middle East. You know, you start with defined UN-sanctioned borders, and then you keep pressing those borders outward, and you do it decade after decade. And when the world's distracted, you keep going. When the world is really distracted, you push further. But as you keep going, you make facts on the ground. This is what I suggested the attorneys for the banks have been doing, slowly codifying, increasing their claim on case law, on on basically getting judges and attorneys in Congress to agree with them. Guys, it's all going to come down, but not while we're playing it now. It'll come down in some sort of crash. But we've got to remember this as we move forward, because it means any assets you keep in a brokerage account. I don't know, reading that, I don't know if it's every asset. I don't know if it's cash. I don't know if it's options. But whenever, I think it was called MFS Securities. I should have looked it up. With John Corzine, when they went bust, they took it all. And then the system made good on the assets after legal battles. But it's legal. And so, anyway, so that was chapter 6. I'll save chapter 7 for tomorrow. Yeah, 7 looks like it's a little long. All right, I don't know what else to talk about. We're 4:30. Let's see if there's any filing. Let me look that up. Maybe a filing after the close. Since Rebecca made it, a statement that the acquisition is complete, it'd be nice to see if there's a filing. But like I told you, I'm not sure those attorneys are putting lickety-split on the file called Railtown at their office. I have to type this in. It takes a while to search. Still processing. She said, actually, Dr. Kaur said processing. She said a boot, a boot. They both have slight Canadian accents. It's still processing. We will give it a second here. I don't know why it's taking so long. Maybe it's because it's the end of the day. There we go. Let's see what it says. Nope, there's nothing filed. I thought it would be tomorrow. I guess that's what it'll be. If it happens. There's no question, so I kind of ran out of things to talk about. We could go over the GDC management discussion, but I think it's distracting. So if you want to go over it, we can talk about it tomorrow. Yeah, I'm sorry it's such a short presentation, and we'll talk tomorrow. Peace to everybody.